Move people did not kill James Ramp. And these government officials know it, particularly people like Ed Rendell, who is now governor and was the district attorney, back then. Lynn Abraham, who is now the district attorney, who was a judge back then, who signed warrants that led to the August 8th police attack on Move.
The police probably would have been legally within their rights to have, subsequent to the shooting of Officer Ramp, stormed the house and killed all of the 12 people in that basement.
The police department knows who killed Officer Ramp. It was another police officer who inadvertently shot the guy. They have fairly substantial evidence that it was a mistake, but again, they'll never admit it. I got this from a number of different sources in the police department, including sources on the SWAT team and sources in the ballistics.
They should be paroled because they're innocent, and secondly because they have served 30 years in prison, which is their minimum. There is no legitimate reason why they should not be paroled. We don't believe in this system. We're not slaves to this system. But at the same time, we don't get involved in a lot of jailhouse nonsense. So Move people are not problematic in terms of, being in prison and causing, all kinds of problems, being involved in a lot of nonsense. They're not. So there is no legitimate reason why they should not be paroled. Historically, with political prisoners especially, parole boards have just basically thumbed their nose at their own laws to keep prisoners in prison. They have said things like serious nature of the offense as an excuse to deny prisoners parole, especially political prisoners. And that is absolutely illegal. It makes no sense at all, because when a judge sentences a person, gives them that minimum and maximum sentence, the judge has already taken into account the quote-unquote serious nature of the offense. That's what the judge is sentencing them on, the offense that they were, convicted of. So to come back later and say, well, we're not releasing you on your minimum because of the serious nature of the offense, is completely illegal. Because that was already taken into account. And what it amounts to is resentencing a person, giving them a new minimum for real. That's illegal. They say we're denying you parole because of lack of remorse. But when a person has maintained their innocence from the very beginning, where would the remorse come from? Where would any remorse come from? And it's not like government officials can just, dismiss this as, well, all prisoners, all, defendants say they're innocent. The point is, almost every day you read in the papers or hear on the news about officials having to release people from prison because after 5, 10, 20, 30 years in prison, their innocence was finally proven to a point where officials just couldn't get around it anymore.
Do you expect them to require the prisoners to renounce Move in order to get released?
Well, we have no way of predicting that, really. I mean, they did that when I came up for parole, when Sue, Alfonso, Alberta came up for parole, even when Consuelo and Carlos came up for parole. But finally, we put so much pressure on them that they backed off that stipulation, and Carlos and Consuelo were paroled without that stipulation. But that doesn't mean that they, may not try to reinstate it. These people are crazy. They're crazy, so they might. We know they don't really want Move people out on the street. We know that. And if they can't go any other way, they might try to reinstate that, but it will be so obvious to people, and people should not accept that.
Now, these stipulations that they can use, they don't have to use them, right? It's their own discretion whether or not they want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the stipulation that they put on us, they just invented that. You know, it's not something that is on their books that they had to use. They just invented it, came up with it, especially for us. You know, they can demand all kinds of things like your home plan. They can demand that it be a certain way and just deny your home plan, you know, for any ridiculous reason, or your job plan, or say that you know, they're denying your home plan because it's a crime infested area. This country is a crime infested area. I mean, what are they talking about? But they can just say this stupid stuff to deny people parole. It's at their discretion completely. And what we found out from dealing with the parole board back in the 80s and 90s is that they are appointed, you know, by the governor, I believe. They don't answer to anybody, really. They're like an autonomous body. And everybody that was contacted, you know, about the situation with me and my sisters and brothers having that stipulation put on us, it was like, well, you know, that's up to the parole board. They're autonomous. They can, you know, make whatever kind of stipulations they want. That is ridiculous. Each MOVE person individually at the prison, you know, where they're housed at, will go for an interview, usually with just one parole board member. And the parole board member will interview them. And then that person will take their recommendation back to the board, the full board, which is 9 people, I believe. And they will make a decision based on the recommendation of the parole board member that interviewed the individual MOVE person. It's really impossible to say how they will rule. I just read in the article that was in yesterday's Inquirer where it's a simple majority. 5 of the 9 have to agree for a person to be paroled.
Right now, you're asking people to write letters to the parole board.
Write, call. If you can get an email address, they really are crazy about not giving out any kind of email address, but people can call and write. And it is important because this is not just about MOVE. You know, the position that we're taking in exposing these crazy reasons that parole board members use to deny people parole, that doesn't begin and end with MOVE. They have historically done this with prisoners, particularly political prisoners, you know, just arbitrarily denied them parole for ridiculous reasons. And what we're doing is attacking these ridiculous reasons and pointing out that they are illegal, that there's no justification for it, they're unconstitutional, and, you know, exposing it so that other inmates won't have to, you know, go through this and be denied parole because of these reasons. When the parole board sees that people are aware of what they're doing and that people aren't going for it, that, you know, they're railing up against this, then they won't be so quick to try it with other people either.
Testimony said, for example, that the bullet came in the left side and went across the body to the right and down. The report said it comes in the right side and goes on. So you got a big problem with the authenticity and thus validity of the medical examiner's report. The prosecutor took out a pencil and erased items in the report that he didn't like and wrote it in right there in open court. Now MOVE is objecting, you know, objection, and the judge was saying, sit down, shut up, you know, and allowed the guy to do that.
It was probably one of the most important prosecutions in this city's history. So I find it a little strange that the tapes are missing.